A developing story from Washington, allegations that a U.S. Congresswoman has been assaulted on Capitol Hill.
I really feel like the trans activists have met their match in Nancy Mace. Some people are obviously accusing her of lying and exaggerating, but I think to a degree, they're both kind of exaggerating. I think that the trans side is exaggerating their innocence in the situation. And I think Nancy Mace is also playing up the severity of that handshake. What's up, everybody? Ty Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. Our girl Nancy Mace got shook loose at the Capitol. Don't get mad at me. Don't switch off, you guys. Don't be like that. Because we are going to have a little fun with this story, only because I heard it yesterday and I was making the Daniel Penny video. And so I was like, well, I can't cut bait and just do Nancy Mace, because I'm going to tell you guys honestly, I could make this channel all about Nancy Mace and I would be just fine. She is a full-time job on her own. And I am having fun with it because I think that the trans activists have really met their match in Miss Nancy Mace. And I don't hate on her for it, but I'm a little worried about some of her tactics. And I'm going to do a whole video about it because there is a playbook that she may unwittingly be playing into from the trans activist and the trans community. Because I'm going to tell you guys, I have tangled with the trans activist community quite a bit. No lie, no exaggeration. I have really been through it with them. And I do mean that. That's why sometimes when people try to accuse me of being a trans activist, I'm like, you have no idea. They do not like me at all. And if you think Nancy Mace goes hard on them, you're not ready for what I do. But the reason that I am kind of worried about her is because there is a huge difference between me and Nancy Mace. And I'm not talking about the fact that I'm male and she's female. I'm not that basic, you guys. But Nancy Mace is a lawmaker, so she has to mind herself a little more than I do. I can get away with a lot more silliness because I am an everyday citizen, a gay man, a notorious FAG. So it's a little bit different, and I'm going to do a full video about it. But for this one, I want you guys to stick around because I'm going to read you an article after this, and we're obviously going to go through the video right now. But I'm going to read you another article right after from Newsweek where 2 eyewitnesses say that it went down a little different than Miss Nancy Mace is letting on, which I have feelings on that. I have feelings on everything. I have a lot of feelings today. Feelings. Nothing more than feelings. I don't even know if that's the right tune. I don't sing, you guys. I'm just a ridiculous person. And like I said, we are going to have a little fun with this one because overall, I know that Nancy Mace is going to be fine. And let's just get into the story.
Let's get right to ABC's Nicole D'Antonio. Nicole, good morning.
Good morning to you. An arrest has been reported, and South Carolina Congresswoman Nancy Mace says she's okay, and she's also describing her alleged attacker.
Overnight, Capitol Police confirming an arrest after an alleged assault against Congresswoman Nancy Mace inside a congressional office building. Mace describing her assailant as, quote, a pro-trans man.
Now, if you guys notice, I just want to point this out really quick. She has a star, well, an asterisk, where the A in trans is supposed to be because she was really getting liberal with the TRA rhymes with granny word. X, the artist formerly known as Twitter, was like, girl, we got to back it up. We're going to have to limit your reach a little bit because this isn't allowed. We don't care who you are. So we're going to get into that another time. But that's the reason that she has the asterisk right there, is because she didn't want to get her stuff limited. And at first she was trying to act like that was some sort of discrimination against her free speech, but that's just a long-standing rule. Like I told you, I've been through it with these people. I know the rules and regulations when it comes to dealing with the trans activists on X, on Facebook. One day I'll tell you guys, like I said, it's fun to me. I'm also a true savage when it comes to online, and I really don't have limits. But let's go on with the attack. Oh, before we go any further, please like, comment, and subscribe. We're on our way to 100,000 followers. We're doing great. I just need you to click on the subscribe button. When you hit the subscribe button though, go to the bell and make sure that you're marked for all notifications. Some of you are hitting me up in the comments and I appreciate you, I don't mind, but some of you are hitting me up in the comments and saying that you're not seeing my notifications. That's probably because by default, YouTube has it set so that it's custom, I believe is the way that it's described. And you got to make sure that it's all notifications if you want to get all the notifications. But let's go on with this story.
So if that being a feminist makes me an extremist, I'm totally here for it.
The Congresswoman faced protests last month after proposing a bill that would ban transgender people from using restrooms on Capitol Hill corresponding to their gender identity. Her proposal coming as Sarah McBride of Delaware prepares to take office as the first transgender person elected to Congress.
I want to make sure that no men are in women's private spaces, and it's not going to end here.
Police have released few details about the suspect, identified as a 33-year-old from Illinois, who now faces a charge of assaulting a government official. The Capitol was open for visitors at the time of the alleged attack. Mace says she has a brace on her wrist, but says she'll be just fine.
All right, guys. Well, that's the official story, and that's what ABC News is saying. But the latest update is that the guy has been released. The guy has been released, and he is basically restraining order rules. He has to stay 100 yards away from her. He also cannot contact her in any way. So now we're going to hear the other side of the story, because this one really is one of those where I feel like it is a three-sided story. You know how they always say there's three sides to every story. The one person side, there's the other person side, and then there's the truth somewhere in the middle. This is one of those for me. And I know, comment down below. Please be active. I encourage you guys to be active, because I know some of you are going to have some real feelings. And I'm here for it. We're going to have fun with Nancy Mace in the upcoming weeks and months, because I know she's going to be the gift that keeps on giving. So every once in a while, we're going to have a Nancy Mace versus the trans, and Nancy Mace versus whoever else. We're also going to do other stuff in between, but we are going to have some fun with Nancy Mace. So let's read this story and I'll tell you what's going on right now. Okay, so the headline is, eyewitnesses say Nancy Mace called for man's arrest after he shook her hand. And this is by Newsweek, just so everybody knows. Eyewitnesses who watched the interaction between Representative Nancy Mace and James McIntyre are questioning the Congresswoman's claims about being assaulted, describing instead a scene where McIntyre was just shaking her hand. Just really quick on the subject of handshakes, I have had points in my career where I have been shaking, no exaggeration, between 200 and 300 hands a night. I know that a handshake can be really painful, especially when you're doing that many and when you're performing in the Midwest. And a lot of men in the Midwest really do believe in giving a firm handshake. And whenever they lean in, I know that there's a chance that this one's going to hurt when they lean in, give me what I like to call the put her there, you know, like that kind of handshake. Those I brace myself for. And there have been points where I've just insisted on giving everybody fist bumps, and it wasn't to be snotty. It was genuinely because my hand was hurting from shaking so many hands. Also, when I was little, we used to do the thing where you would grab somebody's hand and you would kind of roll it, you know what I'm talking about? And like roll all the bones in their hands so it really hurts. Maybe that's just a guy thing. I don't know if all of the women have dealt with that too. But guys do that to each other. If you get a chance, ask your husband, your boyfriend, your brother, whatever man you have close to you about rolling the bones. I don't even know what they call it. But so that's another way this could have went down. Also, you're going to hear in the story, they say that he clasped both of her hands, which I'm always uncomfortable with that. It makes me claustrophobic in a weird way, because I feel like I'm kind of trapped in this person's both hands at that point when they do that. When it's a lady, I don't mind, because, you know, women are obviously not the way that men are. But when a man grabs you with both hands, it's kind of like, okay, you're really holding me right now. And then also when you're being told something uncomfortable with somebody shaking your hand, that's very annoying, because they do have a hold of you. Like one time, a long time ago, this Karen after a show didn't appreciate my set because she was a true Karen. And this was a long time ago. This was before we even called them Karen. She was Karen when Karen wasn't cool. And she shook my hand. And when she had a hold of my hand, she was just like, I just want you to know that I thought you were very offensive. I didn't appreciate what you did. And I was just like, can I have my hand back, please? So let's go on with reading this story. McIntyre, a 33-year-old from Chicago, was arrested by U.S. Capitol Police on Tuesday evening at an event for foster children and charged with assaulting a government official. And you do have to be careful with the government officials because that is a different animal. Don't get squirrely at the post office either, because they're considered to be a pseudo-federal agency, I believe is the way they describe it. So if you get loud at the post office or handsy with any of the postal workers, you're going to find yourself in a lot of trouble. Quote, I was physically accosted at Capitol Hill tonight by a pro-trans man. One new brace for my wrist and some ice for my arm, and it'll heal just fine, Mace wrote on X, formerly Twitter, on Tuesday. Quote, the Capitol Police arrested the guy. Your trans violence and threats on my life will only make me double down. That's Nancy Come At Me Bro Mace, everybody.
Come at me, bro, I guess, but
Don't get it twisted. That is Nancy, former Waffle House waitress. Come at me, bro. Mace you're dealing with right now. No, her first name ain't Baby. It's Nancy. Miss Mace if you're transy. All right. I'm not going to tell you guys how many takes of that I had to do to stop myself from completely losing it. It was a lot, though. All right. But two witnesses describe a different scene. Ooh, the plot thickens. Lisa Dixon, a veteran advocate. Oh, she's not trans. I guess I was going too far by stressing the dick in Dixon, but anyway, Lisa Dixon, a veteran advocate for foster youth from Ohio, wrote in a Facebook post, I want to express deep disappointment in the fact that Congresswoman Nancy Mace came to a national foster youth event, told participating youth that it was a safe space, and literally had one of them arrested by Capitol Police for simply shaking her hand and asking about trans rights. Let me interject again, because if you've been paying attention to the news on any level, and I'm sure every one of these activists and the foster people that have Nancy Mace representing them, she's actually their person, knows that Nancy Mace is not having it with trans right now. So to say it was just as simple as shaking her hand and asking her about trans rights, you knew that was going to piss her off. And if you really wanted her support in any capacity, because obviously on the trans thing, I would say that's a wash. I would say don't bug her with that. That's what I would honestly say. But if you really wanted her help and support on other issues when it comes to foster care or things to do with foster care, then I would say don't bother her with the trans part of it, because you know that that's not what she's about. And also, if we're talking about foster care, that's usually under 18. So in other words, minors. And all of us, pretty much outside of radical trans activists, are not in support of doing any kind of transing of the kids. It's just not what we're doing. So when you're talking to a congresswoman that's already not in support of that, and you very well know that, there's no other reason for you to ask her about that other than to either upset her and see if you can get a rise out of her, or make some sort of headlines yourself. So instead of being disappointed in Nancy Mace, what you should have been disappointed in was one of your people, one of the advocates, for even bothering her with that. You should have briefed everybody ahead of time and just been like, hey, you guys, Miss Nancy Mace with all that. That's not what she's about. That's not what she's doing. McIntyre, a former foster youth and advocate, was at the House of Representatives Tuesday alongside Dixon and Mace for an event honoring the anniversary of a landmark child welfare law. McIntyre is a leading voice in policymaking surrounding foster care in his home state of Illinois. He was named the Public Citizen of the Year by the National Association of Social Workers Illinois chapter in 2019. Another foster care advocate who was present at the event recalled that after Mace finished delivering remarks, she moved to leave the room through an exit where McIntyre approached her to shake her hand and comment about the transgender youth in foster care who need her support. Like I said, he shouldn't have bothered her with that in the first place. Quote, "From what I saw, it was a normal handshake and interaction that I would expect any legislator to expect from anyone as a constituent." End quote. Elliot Hinkle, a former foster youth and advocate for LGBTQ, told the imprint. A police report of the incident obtained by Newsweek said the officers were dispatched after an individual allegedly violently shook Mace's hand and made threats. It said that the suspect was contacted to return to the scene and meet with the responding officer and offer a statement of the incident. The suspect was then arrested. The imprint, a nonprofit outlet devoted to covering child welfare, reported that when McIntyre was being arrested at the scene, his colleagues stood by tearfully, asked where he was being taken to, and called frantically for an attorney who could represent them. Hinkle said the arrest sends a chilling effect of "you're not actually safe to go to Capitol Hill and share an opinion that is true for you, that isn't violent, because right now if you do, a congressperson might say that they were physically assaulted and call the police on you. How would a young person in care feel safe?" Hinkle said. Okay, well, what this article doesn't tell you is this person, Elliot Hinkle, that was the second witness, actually is also a trans person. And the way that I think that this probably went down, because Nancy Mace said that her hand was very violently shaken, which makes me think of, remember Bam Bam from the Flintstones? That was Barney Rubble and Betty's kid that would like bam, bam. And when he would shake Fred's hand, he would throw him all over the place. I imagine that.
Either that or when you said shake hands, he thought you said break hands.
Because while I do believe Nancy Mace that maybe he did shake her hand harder than he needed to, which should not happen. And I agree that she is within her rights to do something about that. But at the same time, I do think that she's playing it up a little bit because she really needs to make her point on this. And the fact of the matter is, if she were to tell the story just the way that it went down, people might be like, so what? He just shook your hand a little more firmly than you were ready for. So she has to really play it up. And I know some of you are going to get mad at me for saying that, but I really do feel like that. Because like I said, I've dealt with a lot of handshakes. Unless he really did shake her loose, I don't know how she would need a sling. I'm going to be honest about that. Like, I could understand if she just had a brace for her hand or something for her hand because he squeezed her hand a little bit too hard. But for her to need an entire sling, how hard did he shake her hand? Why do we not see camera footage of that? Or are we going to see that later? And also, it said in another article that she refused actual medical attention. So to me, that's also a little bit weird. Also, Nancy Mace is a firecracker. So in the other article I read, and I'm sorry I'm referencing the other article so much, but this one didn't have everything, but it did have the 2 eyewitness accounts, which the other article did not. But in the other article, she didn't say anything at the time of the handshake. She didn't say something until a little bit later. And then one of her staffers came over to him and was like, hey, we need to know what you told Nancy. And then after that, that's when the police got called. And so I think that it was a little bit after the fact, which I don't 100% blame her for. And nobody used the term victim blaming because I'm just trying to tell a story right now and use some common sense and let you guys make your decision afterwards. And you can tell me your opinions down below. But I'm definitely not victim blaming. I'm just trying to look at everything from every point of view because I don't think any of them are really being honest, to tell you the truth. Not 100%. Like, I do believe that the handshake was a little bit heavier than it needed to be. You know, the other thing I think about is like breakdancing, like maybe like if Nancy did the, whoa, you know, all right. But seriously, because he really would have had to shake that hand to give her, because, you know, her armpit is supposedly sore and she was shooketh if you leave it up to her to tell it. And she's telling it. But, well, she's telling it to the degree that she can tell it. He pleaded not guilty. So there's that on top of it. It's going to go on a little bit more. But I was going to say that I also don't completely trust the trans activists because I've seen the way these people work. When it comes to these trans activists, they will do evil things and they will kind of mean girl it with their other friends. So knowing the way that these people work, I wouldn't put it past this person to be like, watch you guys, I'm going to make Nancy Mace uncomfortable. Or to even have told them earlier in the day, like, I'm going to confront Nancy. I'm going to let her know how I feel about that. And then the others are like, ooh, well, you tell her, girl. You make sure that she hears you. And they sent him on this mission, so to speak. Because, like I said, you really shouldn't bug her with that because we all know that she's not about that. So if a person's not about that and you know it and they're in a position of power where they can help you get some legislation pushed through or possibly at least bring your issues to the floor, I don't know why you would bother burning that bridge. And while I will admit that Nancy Mace has gone hard on trans, she's regularly taking pictures with LGBT people that are in support of her. So it's not like she's completely shut off to LGB. But when it comes to addressing minors and being trans, I think that that should be taken out of the vocabulary all the way. And I'm not trying to limit anybody's speech, but I'm just saying that for the healthy development of these young people, I don't think that we should affirm them as trans in any way. And the research actually doesn't show, as much as they tell you that it does, the research does not show that it makes the difference that they say that it makes in avoiding suicidal ideation. That's just not the way that it bears out. So take it out of your vocabulary. Leave people alone about that, and especially leave Nancy Mace alone about that. Oh, and the thing I was saying is, I think Nancy Mace is enough of a firecracker that if he was really shaking her hand super hard or made her feel uncomfortable, I think she would have been loud about it, especially being that she was still in the Capitol and had access to Capitol Police. I really do think that if it had been as severe as she said, I think that she would have said something in that very moment and been very vocal about it. Like I said, I do think it probably was a little harder than it should have been, which is still inexcusable and still means she should do something about it. But I think that the delay will make it so it's at least somewhat questionable. And like I said, you guys can be mad at me if you want to, but if you stick around for the next couple of episodes, because I'm going to do some other stuff in between, but I do have a video that's going to be coming out where I'm going to break down for you guys what the playbook is going to be, or what I think the playbook is going to be from the trans activists, because they are not going to go into this quietly. This is the quiet before the storm. Even though there was the demonstration, there's still got to be a whole legal aspect to it. And I'm sure of that. And I'm going to tell you what I think they're going to do and how I think they're going to play it, and how they've already started to strategically maneuver as far as language goes, and a few little things that I noticed going on the activist side. So I'm really just trying to give you guys the best advice and let you guys think about things in a way that, I don't know, maybe one of my viewers has some access to Nancy Mace and can be like, hey, Nancy, maybe check out some of these videos because this might be the playbook. I told you guys, I've tangled with them enough to know the way that they work and the kind of tactics that they'll try to pull. There probably is no better consultant than me, and I'm doing it through YouTube. I'm not even charging Nancy Mace any money. I'm not even trying to get $1 out of Nancy. Send me money, Nancy. Venmo, Ty Rivera-comedy. Venmo, Ty Rivera-comedy. I won't tell anybody that Nancy Mace is giving me money, but I'm going to give you the keys to the castle. Anyway, let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. If you want to see a video of me talking about the Daniel Penny situation, click this video right here. If you want to see a video of me talking about something else, click this video right here. Thank you for watching. As always, this has been Ty Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world.
They bought into his bullshit.